The Lord is my rock. It is a phrase you have probably heard 100 times. But think about what actually happens when we try to apply a word for a literal physical stone to the abstract, infinite concept of a divine creator. When a religious believer makes a statement like this, how does it function as language? Are they speaking literally, or perhaps just metaphorically? In the 13th century, the philosopher Thomas Aquinas pointed out that talking about God creates a massive linguistic trap for human beings. He realized that if we do not figure out exactly how these words operate, the entire foundation of theology breaks down. We would be left completely unable to say anything meaningful about the divine. Aquinas identified two distinct dead ends in how we use words. The first is called univocal language. This chart shows how a single word can hold a perfectly rigid definition. If I talk about a black cat and a black car, the word black operates univocally. It means the exact same thing in both contexts. But this approach immediately fails when applied to God. If we call God a rock univocally, we are claiming the creator of the universe is a literal, physical object made of sediment and minerals. That directly contradicts the core definition of God as an infinite, non-physical being. The second dead end is equivocal language. These words share a sound but have zero overlap, like an animal bat and baseball bat. As this text notes, there is no likeness between things. Thus, our descriptions of God become empty noise. Here is the vacuum Aquinas leaves us with. If our language cannot mean the exact same thing, and it cannot mean completely different things, how is it possible to communicate anything real about God? Aquinas argued for a middle path out of this trap, which he called analogy. Analogical language uses words that are mathematically or causally proportioned to one another. This is the analogy of proportion. A concept stretches or shrinks to fit the scale of its subject. A physical rock has stability, limited by its finite nature. But calling God a rock means possessing stability proportional to an infinite divine nature. Proportion allows humans to borrow physical descriptors from our everyday world by simply scaling the underlying properties up to an infinite degree. Proportion is highly effective for explaining metaphors, but what happens when we want to assign an actual positive trait, like goodness? For that, Aquinas introduces a second mechanism, the analogy of attribution. To explain this, he relies on a famous medical example regarding the word healthy. We comfortably call both a human body and a pill healthy. A pill doesn't have an immune system, but we use the same word because they are linked. The medicine is the active cause of the health in the body. Aquinas applies this directly to moral traits. When we say God is good, we use attribution. We observe goodness existing here in physical creatures, and we trace that trait back to its ultimate cause. He takes the logic one step further. Just as iron becomes red hot by sharing in a fire that possesses heat inherently, goodness exists in God as his very substance. This positions God as the source from which all creaturely goodness flows, embodying the trait perfectly. By using attribution, we name God based on the positive effects he causes in the physical world, recognizing he embodies those exact same traits perfectly. By combining the analogies of proportion and attribution, Aquinas establishes a framework where religious language operates between the extremes of literalism and meaningless poetry. Descriptions like good or a rock function as a logical translation of our experience. These terms take finite concepts and scale them toward the infinite through the lenses of proportion and causation. But there is a crucial limitation. As Aquinas notes here, our words apply primarily to creatures and only secondarily to God. Because our vocabulary is permanently anchored to a physical, finite universe, it will always represent an infinite being inadequately. Human language can never fully capture or contain the infinite destination it tries to describe, but through analogy, it stops being a trap and instead becomes a reliable compass, ensuring that even if we can't see the end of the map, our minds are pointing in the exact right direction.